Hello. Here we go. When I am here with you, we have some fun. So I am streaming in a couple places. Let me get some of this when I am here with you. All right. Hello. Hi, Tracy. How are you? I'm Katie, and I am here to discuss the benefits of resonating our nervous system instead of regulating our nervous system. And I love coming on live and sharing things and answering questions. I know it's a perfect touch weekend. Hi, Angel. How are you? We're here for some resonance, okay? It is the week of the week of the week for a lot of us with the families. And I thought I would come on and share some of these tools. They're so essential. I don't even want to say basic. They're essential tools for nervous system regulation or resonance. If you're me, I'm just trying to figure out how to exist on two cameras at once right now. Pardon me. Doesn't happen. Doesn't work. Anyway, hello. Hi. So I wrote this little picture book called Tao and the Art of Nervous System Regulation. I now contemplate resonance, but I want to read some of it to you. We can have like a little story time. And then if you have questions, I would love to answer your questions. And this has some amazing practices in it as well that help you become a resonator, like a conductor or a choreographer or a composer, less than a doctor. Even doctors need a little bit of music in their life. I learned that as a child when my father was the teacher of doctors. So if they thought it was important enough to hang out with my mangled tooth father, we had saber-toothed tigers. I had a mangled tooth father. He looked very strange. Figure it's okay. So the just to orient your eyes to this little booklet that I wrote, this chart here that looks like a weird human, I call it the bean, Bean. This is one whole ass human bound to the gravity of Earth with a nervous system. Nervous system is illustrated here for you as a matrix, because I know we love matrices. Everybody loves a matrix. This matrix is the matrix of the I Ching. Well, hello, sir. It's been a shit couple of years. I'm glad that you're here. Body shop. So our nervous system as a matrix. Yes, the matrix like the one everybody's telling you is possible to escape, which it is not. But I have a good reason why, okay? The matrix is gravity. If it's anything more than gravity, I don't know that it can be understood, or they would have figured it out by now, the scientists, because they're looking very, very, very far out. And shockingly, at a certain scale, astrophysics starts to mirror quantum physics, which is where we get all the fun, exciting ideas about time travel and movies like Interstellar and uh, other things like that, Star Wars. So they're related. And somehow the Chinese knew that. So we're going to contemplate our nervous system as a matrix. And then you can put anything you want on the matrix because it's yours. But there are some things that every human has. Chinese medicine is very kind about that. What Chinese medicine says, besides the Darla, is that every human has a Shen. And so I made a variation of one. I made an artwork. And these Shen, this is the basis for all the characters you're going to meet today. What the Shen do, Shen are the magical mysticals. Okay, they're the magical mysticals. Sometimes what they do is actually definable and understandable with the technology that we have. Sometimes what they do might as well be like gods or magic. Yeah, it's true. My kitty cat is loving. Did I forget to give you wet food breakfast? I am a terrible human. Hold on one moment. Oh my goodness, there's going to be a mutiny. Let's get you guys some food. Oh my goodness. How could I forget you? You sleep on me all the time and I'm allergic to you. Here you go. There you go. Terrible child. All right, so the Shen. The Shen are the magical mysticals. So if I'm a doctor in Chinese medicine as opposed to a metaphysician, which is probably as close to medicine as you will ever get me, I am going to be, when I put the needle in your skin, this is where the needle is sending the Shen. This is the chart of the inner landscape from Chinese medicine. This you get a whole tour of in my $20 crash course. Yes, I'm selling things to you today as well. It's okay. There's free stuff also. Go get the free thing in my stand store. But this chart, my friends, could just change your life. And I am not saying that flippantly. It definitely helped me to survive something that I shouldn't have. And I'm talking about my stroke, not the stage 3 breast cancer I experienced fully isolated at the height of the pandemic. Oh, no, no, no. It was the stroke before that. So, open secret that I'm telling you as a Taoist master and an understander now of astrophysics, genetics, quantum computing, and I'm actually learning programming now to visualize some of this stuff for you. You don't have to be a weirdo like me. Be a weirdo like the bean, bean, human being. Something magical, mystical is going to happen in your brain when you say human being or the bean, and you're relating bean to human. And I did this very on purpose, and then it turned out to be one of the most amazing Bob Ross accidents of the universe of my experience that day, which is I can't remember because I was so excited. Metal. Somebody remind me what I just said. I got very excited. Bob Ross, Secret of the Universe, Magical Mysticals. Oh, well, we'll just have to go with the bean, the human being. This bean actually does have a name. Actually, it's Le Bean. Well, and we can do that too as well. You know, the tantric practices in this, the ones for the grown-ups are fully and wholly about centralizing this location here in the body. This is called the Hara, Hara, as the seat, the location of alchemical pregnancy and birth. So all of the alchemy came from the women to the men so that the men could experience the thing that makes us unique as a species, which actually is menopause, not menstruation. How the Chinese knew this tens of thousands of years ago, I don't know, but they did. And when I say the menopause, there are 3 mammals that menopause on the planet. 2 of them are ocean dwellers, orca and pilot whales. The third one is human. Somehow, when all of the animals everywhere in the world, which is what this is, one way to contemplate this zone here. This is your carotid lands. This is the 12-storied pagoda. Okay. This is your 12 vagus nerves, but also as a chart of evolution, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, because yes, the Chinese were doing some kind of genetic something with whatever they understood. This is the part in taxonomy of biological classification where we are in the same class as chordates, as the orcas, but also there is a relationship to the development of bones, bones. And guess which animals had bones first? Poisson, les poissons. How we love les poissons. Yes, it was fish. It was not mammals. Bony fish. So the bony fish are up in here from an evolutionary perspective, but also these amazing, incredible, like strangeness of human. Strangeness of human. Oh my goodness. We can look at the monkeys and great apes around us, see a very similar life cycle, but those babies don't need to wait to walk their first year. They're up and going. Like the whole fact that we are born so helpless, I believe matters as it relates to the lived experience of having a whole ass body throughout our childhood and like being alive. Because when I think about something like adverse childhood experiences and how it's so obvious what many of them are, famine, death, divorce, but it could also have been for some of us being born, almost dying being born. It could have been for some of us very early on, like for a week, your parents didn't have enough money for food, and somehow that week, those cries, somehow that sticks. Right. So when Mr. Bessel van der Kolk tries to tell you that your body is a scorecard, I would like him in your mind to say, thank you, Dr. Bessel. My body is the score. Our bodies are built geometrically very similar to music. That's why we love harmonics. That's why people get so excited about cymatics. It's reflected in the body. So these alchemy practices that use these shen to do the labor, not to give the evidence, to do the labor, mostly are asking us into, and what they're looking for us for is something called homeostasis, why music moves the emotions. Music soothes the savage beast. Music goes and communicates without language or without words. And rhythm, this is the love dove of the heart that you're hearing when you're gestating in the whatever that is that we grow up in. Placenta. My mother was a trumpet player. I'm sure my brother and I were getting all kinds of cool pressure and vibrations when we were in her belly. So homeostasis, my rendering of homeostasis is just this like beautiful, infinite 8 thing. I tried to make it like an 8, but I couldn't make it fully like an 8 and still have it be a sphere. So I made it more like a sphere Merkaba, like a 6-sided geometry. And one thing I would encourage you to do is know that this kind of perfected state is not possible in a conscious way and then to sustain it. This kind of perfect state is the perfect state that our cells are looking for with whatever they do, the osmosis, this perfect state is the state that our digestion is looking for, right? That we're eating food and it's not upsetting the tum-tum. This perfect state is what you think about when you think about resonating and harmonizing and you just feel so good. These are not consistent steady states. These are dynamic states. It's called a dynamic state. So homeostasis is experientially, it's like treading water. And that's really important because there's like all the ways that things can go in dimension. The homeostatic experience is pretty lateral. It's like towards the equator, towards the actual ground. So I invented a whole new amazing earth-shattering exercise you can do called Sense of Bum. It's the one thing I needed to add to China to get China and Western medicine together. Everything Western medicine turned into physics when I tried to make Western medicine match with Chinese medicine. there's a lot of problems in the logic that we use in Western medicine, not the science, but just like the practical logic. So this is sense of bum. Okay, sense of bum, sob, S-O-B. The way that you practice sense of bum, then I'll introduce you to the Shen. The way that you practice it is by having an ass and recognizing that you're on a surface. So if you'd like to join me, I just kind of rock back and forth. If you stim to like remember that you exist and then people tell you to stop moving, I'm going to say, not in this context. No, no. So sense of bum. Maybe even like sitting back if you're sitting on something with a chair. And then it's just like a couple of breaths in through your nose and out of your mouth. And look anywhere you want. You can be as crabby as you are. You can hate everything that you hate. Eventually, with the settling on and the breathing, you might just start settling. Please do not tell yourself to take deep breaths and calm down. Your breath is a tool here. It's not a rescue here. It can be a rescue in other things. Here, it's a tool. It's something that you have. The psychologists call it resourced, to be resourced. A lot of the times it means remembering stuff that you already know when shit hits the fan and stuff is sideways and you get confused or threatened or whatever. It's like, and then you just need to remember that you have tools. So just breathing. One way you can contemplate yin and yang, that circle from Taoism. I should say my workshop on January 15th has slides and will be linear. We're just having fun today. So you should please contemplate coming to that. But here is yin and yang. And I'm doing it blue because there is a trick that they don't tell us. Or rather, they tell us all over the place, but they don't tell us. If you like a cipher, if you like looking through things and finding a pattern and noticing stuff, the Chinese cosmology is so great for it. Obviously, because it's a different language, but also the data hasn't been corrupted in the internet like all of the yoga stuff has. So here's that yin and yang. I did it in blue. I think we're all familiar with it. The black and the white, the good and the bad, the up and the down, the inhale and the exhale. Expanding and contracting. Standing and sitting. Leaning side to side. Twisting side to side. Looking. It's like all the different ways we can relate to a thing when the a thing is a piece of paper, 2 dimensions in the physics contemplation. You and I have to contemplate our emotions through 2D. We kind of have to because we are 3D. That means we need a trick. It means we need a trick. If I can only breathe in, breathe out, if I don't have some like hoverboard factor, you know, like bumblebees have with their wings, if we have to be breathing all the time. Our blood has to be flowing all the time. Urine, maybe not poo, that can get stuck. I can have a little bit of a hunger pain and if I stop breathing, if I forget to breathe for an afternoon, like I forget I have a body, I'm not existing anymore. So where other systems give us this idea of ether, China specific, I'm calling it the China. China very, very kindly gives us metal. Okay. And the way that elements work in Chinese medicine is very much the way that the elements are on the periodic table of elements. So we had sense of thumb, just for remembering that we're real. This is my little $17 bathroom book you can get on my website. And my whatever that other thing is, Linktree. I'm working on making my website look a bit better. This is the metal element in Chinese medicine. It actually doesn't like exist in 3D, so I gave it to you in a book. The metal element in Chinese medicine equals our lungs. Metal equals breath. Metal. Ether. Breath. Thank you, China. Do you know why? Because we have metallic components in our body, namely like iron in our blood, but also we are supposed to know the white and stick to the black. We're going to pretend like that's black right now. Know the white and stick to the black. The color of the metal element really, really is white. But most of us need to show it to you as gray or something because you won't be able to perceive it if I'm showing it to you on a white piece of paper. The black. Know the white and stick to the black. We have these amazing organs in our bodies that do this thing where they clean our blood. And like they do it whether or not we ask it to. We might not do a good job of remembering to finish the elimination. That's that experience of introception, of like understanding the signals coming up. But hello, kidneys are doing that anyway. So Zhu is the entity associated with, or Zhur is how I pronounce it. I was just corrected yesterday. Thank you. Zhur, the azure dragon, I think is what she becomes in the Ni Jing too, but it is the water element. Okay, so it's positioned in your body, in my body, in our lower back, where our kidneys are in our low back. The color for the kidneys is blue or black. So if I am to know the white, but stick to the black, is it possible? I'm supposed to know the air, the atmosphere, the environment, but stick to the black, the liquidity of water, but also just water, H2O. Because H2O is the element. Okay, so the way water behaves when you and I are existing on planet Earth is very different than the way water behaves or other molecules behave. Water floats when it's frozen. It's densest in its fluid state. So our lungs are associated with the olfactory nerve. It's like the one sense that you only sense that you can't see. Is that why, that must be why ether. I don't know, I didn't make it up, but I'm really happy that I can contemplate metal and water. Or in the black and white of this apparent opposite, you could also contemplate it as, am I going clockwise or counterclockwise? I don't know. Which way is the clock? Am I decreasing in complexity and going towards entropy, or am I increasing in complexity and starting to look like the patterns that those of us who are autistic recognize so often. And that or is not yes or no, because we have this flow. This flow between the yin and the yang probably is indicative of the tilt of the earth on its axis, but also the tilt of our brain and our skulls. So whether or not a thing is yin or yang, okay, we can just take metal out of it. Let's just think yin or yang. Whether or not something is yin or yang depends. Fully depends. 100%. What am I contemplating? Where is it? When is it? Is where or when even relevant? Is there a who involved? Do I need to contemplate that there's a whole other human or living entity in this contemplation of potential distinctions? Right? So, like, humans breathe air, fish breathe water, but we both consume oxygen to do so. Or like handedness, right hand, left hand. So if we can start expanding this idea of opposites, this idea of respiration, right, of breathing in and out with the Shen becomes like inner alchemy acupuncture. And I'm just telling you that's just a fact. I would be very happy to have an argument about this with a physicist any day soon, please. I'm pretty sure is there a field called biophysics? Let's just check out G. Okay, Ju, 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 mm, like the good thing to drink. The Ju, this entity in our kidneys, and again, these are magical, mystical, they're like plasmoids. If what I understand of physics is accurate, because I don't understand the math, but if I understand it accurately, one way to contemplate these would be as plasmatic in nature, because the Shen can do anything against the laws of physics. The Shen are the way that we might contemplate something like generational trauma, like inherited trauma. My Shen in my kidneys is very, very flippin' exhausted. She's not such a good swimmer anymore. Okay. She had a big, long last 5 years, had a stroke, had stage 3 breast cancer, long COVID. I mean, it's been going on. All right. She is sitting on the beach relaxing. She's no longer helping my tissues do things like dance and hang off of ceilings in strange shapes. My body just can't do it anymore. So the kidneys are contemplated, not composed, contemplated as like the storehouse of the most essential essence of our life force, which is called Jing, Jing. Getting you to this, reminding you that I am linear in workshops. I'm just sort of sharing what I have here. Jing is our inner nest. Okay. When Jing feels threatened, when people discuss how when your nervous system feels threatened, la 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 la, this system positions that experience deep, deep in the body, not up in the head where we're figuring out what's going on and oh my gosh, and am I regulated? And that's not what a regulated human looks like or be all the way down here. This down here has a direct relationship to your nose up here. In that, the pathways of the ganglions of all the connections of that we have whole parts of our brain that are involved in a sensory motor experience that are not single nerves but behave together as one. They're called ganglions. And like a ganglion cyst, it's a very mucousy thing, but ganglia are what other animals are contemplated through intelligence. If they don't actually have an organized brain, it's one of the ways. The octopus has a brain and 8 ganglia. Its noodly appendages each have their own mind, right? A leechworm has 32 brains. A silkworm has 11 brains, like all that kind of stuff. Somehow these guys knew that when we receive anything from our environment, this idea of primal and limbic, so aware that what we're doing when we're contemplating the Shen is we're giving us a place to be on the inside. That for many folks who experience dissociation and like a full-on lack of anything, that sound, oh, we're going to have safety and security. And you're like, you don't live in my house, like that kind of thing. So the magic, the boundaries of alchemy and of medicine are to your life force energy itself. And I don't mess with this biatch because she's hanging out right here at the gate of life. You kind of have to get the whole picture for me to get it, like go get the what are those things? The downloads and stuff, but the gate of life, that's where we experience fight, flight, freeze, fawn. At the base of us, not in our neck where our vagus nerve is. Vagus nerve doesn't have that awareness. Your central nervous system is the one that receives and transmits that awareness to the peripheral nervous system. And our kidneys, as water, are associated with our eyes as organs. That is the second cranial nerve. So the first one is your nose, the second one is your eyes. And the way that you tone the kidneys or tune the Shen is with the sound chu. Chu. C-H-O. Chu. Chu. I'm just kind of like chilling out. Chu. Nice and easy. Sense of bum, remembering that you exist. After we're kidneying around, we go to the liver. Oh my goodness, friends, the Hun. This is one of the entities that Carl Jung brought back with him when he wrote whatever he wrote. The Hun, if you've ever heard of Hun and Po, like the visionary soul and the corporeal soul, that's Hun and Po. Po is lungs, Hun is liver. In between them, Mr. Jung, is your own flippant experience of life, which, by the way, occurs in shadow. Part of what I'm trying to do with my work is disrupt this myth that everybody believes, maybe not you, but most humans, that we have a shadow, that there's something wrong about it, and I can do work to understand my shadow. That is just from a neuroscience perspective, that's really flippin' obnoxious, but from a alchemy perspective and a dimensionality perspective, it's arrogant. The only way you and I can perceive more than 3 dimensions is when physicists show us what it looks like in a shadow. You and I get afraid of going into the woods when they're dark, when they are under shadow. Not because they're dangerous, because we have stories about shadow. Shadowy figures in the night. I can't wait to see Nosferatu. But I'm just saying, shadow as like what do they call them? Like the boogeyman, like something you would like threaten children with. Oh, do your thing or the shadow will come. Chinese were like, that's not how they use shadow, by the way. Okay. The Shen, S-H-E-N, create the shadow, because the Shen can be more than 3 dimensions, more than 4 dimensions. I've mapped this out to 347 million dimensions. Just with logic, not by actually trying to experience it. That would be an impossibility. I didn't know that astrophysics and quantum physics didn't understand that they're the same thing. They are. Okay, so the Hun helps us with the experience of anger and forgiveness. We need a lot of forgiveness, but hey, guess what? If you are a people pleaser like I am, you can forgive too much. Your liver is on the right side. So I love also this started on the back. Lungs are on the back. That's that S. Kidneys on the back. Liver on the front. Hun, corporeal. Hun has to do with time. And whether or not it's time dependent or not. There are some things that happen that are not dependent on time. Shock, I know. But he's very much about like, let's just remember the passage of time. So the Hun is also supporting our gallbladder, which stores bile and releases it during digestion so we can digest fats. Okay, but we tone and tune the liver itself. The sound is shh, just like you're asking someone to be quiet. Shh. I have a couple different cameras on me, so shh. Nice and easy. Shh. And then you contemplate the Hun, and you'll see something different and new in the Hun every time. I do as well. I think the Hun is a mask. I'm not sure. I'm very confused about the Hun's identity. I don't understand how the Hun understands the Hun. Then we go to the heart, your actual beating muscle, which is the where we experience joy and hatred. The sound is ha, just like a sigh, like that. And you don't have to force it. And I learned to make these breaths sublingually, just like an inner wind going into my torso. So you could even do it quieter if you want. Ha. This Shen of the heart is like the ringleader of the Shen of the organs because she got her name Shen. So contemplate Shen also then as like a rank or like a category of things. So there's the Shen themselves that live in our organs that do the thing that help with the transfer of, I don't understand, whatever the organs are doing. They're related to our cranial nerves. Nice. There's also Shen. In Japan, I think it's called a kami. And these are it's not necessarily turning objects into being, it is contemplating objects as entities. In the same way, hello, Miss Maria. In very much the same way, like an entity might govern something. Oh, I don't know, like your vagus nerve might govern certain parts of your body. That is a Shen quality. Okay. We don't attack the Shen. They already know what to do. We have to help them with the environment around them. First, easiest way to do that is with breathing. Ha. Then you get this. You're like, oh, $17. That's so nice. And after you read it for a while, it starts to fall apart. And then you have beautiful art you can hang up too. I just didn't do it in a hardbound because I don't want it to be too expensive. This is the also these are printed on demand. So please don't be mad at me when they're not at you in 2 days. Okay. And if I wanted to do this with an ISBN, I have to turn into a publisher. I want you to just have the materials as quickly as I can get them to you. This is a very direct way. This Yi, spirit of the spleen. Our spleen, oh, I did it on the wrong side because I'm mirrored. Our spleen is on the left side. Spleen is associated with your tum-tum, with all the oh my goodness and the IBS and the colitis and the experience of ostomy and farting and gut biome gets pretty close with the stomach here. Our lungs are associated with the large intestine and our heart with the small intestine. So they're like all involved, but the spleen is like very directly involved in digestion. It's also a very important object for our immune system. There are studies happening and even products coming out that like stimulate the vagus nerve in your neck. Uh-oh, is that a swollen gland? Swollen gland might mean cancer. We're going to just ignore that. So the hold on. I don't like the awareness I just had. Give me a moment. Tell me something wonderful about your day. I have a very high threat of recurrence and I'm about to hit 5 years since diagnosis. So the existential nature of my experience is one that I'm like used to, but occasionally it sneaks up and grabs me. Swallowing. This is very important. Your swallowing nerve in your head and your cranium is the 9th cranial nerve, glossopharyngeal. Your 8th cranial nerve is the vestibulocochlear nerve. It's the one that helps you with your experience of balance. It is the 5th, yes, the 5th cranial nerve that is the trigeminal nerve. And that's that nerve that's up in this zone that gives so many of us such a hard time. Such a hard time. The trigeminal nerve. Of the nerves in our brain that come from the cranium, which is the head, the trigeminal nerve is the one that behaves like a ganglia more than a singular nerve. Ganglia meaning like a little gang of Leahs that go out and they do things. So not only with that split of the vagus nerve is that really relevant, but it does 3 things. And then we're asking, because it has 3 factors to it. And then we ask it to do a binary operation, which is either regulate me or get me back into regulation. And this is what we're starting to do with our vagus nerves. Your vagus nerve, my friends, is your inner child experience. I have to turn down the heat in my apartment. So the vagus nerve, or the trigeminal nerve, I should say, is our child, right? But so what the vagus nerve does, just from a practical perspective, is it has the one branch that makes things understand and it has a branch that makes things do. Okay. That all together is what is regulating. It's not the only mechanism for regulation. It's not the only place that needs to be regulated. And I am very sorry to tell you that the doctors who invented polyvagal theory are psychiatrists, not neuroscientists. So they're looking for behavioral evidence that their tools are working. That shows up in our face through the 7th cranial nerve. They're all only paying attention to 10. My shit gets us into those first 9 directly, especially the facial and the abducens nerve. I know these are big words, but just listen to me, okay? The abducens nerve in our brain does this for our eyes. It helps eye tracking. But we also have an oculomotor nerve that helps us do all of this. We have, there's like 4 of our cranial nerves go to our eyes. I feel like that's very significant to how we both understand the world and also to the lived experience of hypermobility. There are 6 muscles that are in charge of moving our eyes. If I have weird tissue, are my eyes going to do and respond the right way when people are tracking them to see if I'm properly propered? Actually, very much not. A lot of people with neurodivergencies, we use our eyes to navigate the inner landscape. I use my eyes to navigate through the back of my retina. I literally orient in the world upside down and backwards first. Then I move forward. That's how neurodivergent I am. But that's also how your eyes actually work. So this exteroception, S-H-E-N, okay, who is the entity that expresses the experience of exteroception, T-I-O-N, the part where I walk into walls all the time, okay, and I have weird bruises, and I'm clumsy. I'm saying I am because that's me, but all that kind of stuff, exteroception, when we're asked questions about our environment, and especially, right? What's something to your left? What do you have on? Where is the thing to the, when we're asked those questions, often that is so that we can provide evidence to ourselves or others that we are present in some way. Okay, super awesome, amazing, good. Now that I had my stroke, not enough. So I was already PhD trauma science expert before I had my stroke. Now I've clearly pivoted to neuroscience. And after I had my stroke, and this is true for me as a dissociative entity as well, I have a dissociative experience of the world, the very complex dissociative experience. Does not go into like alternate identities, but it is very complex, the matrix. This is the matrix I gave you as the I Ching, but it could be any matrix. I like the I Ching because it's a buckyball. Buckyballs are the largest carbon molecules. Katie accidentally invented them. Literally, I accidentally invented them because I figured what would a Buckminster Fuller dome look like if I could live in it like totally, not just as a dome, but as a sphere. It would be a ball, a buckyball. Practical. But yes, so we're going to get onto the planet before we get into an environment. Okay. It's like, you know, when you're only partially on autopilot, but you're on autopilot and like you can answer questions and you're doing things and oh yeah, this is going on, that's there and that's there. That's going to orient me to where I am, but I don't need to be oriented to my body to report on my environment. I can be oriented to Kashmir Loka, my home planet. I have not been there. I'm told it's very nice. I made it up in the 90s because I didn't like this one. But like, or you could be daydreaming or ruminating or genuinely, you know, dissociated or just like not really into the conversation. So if we begin with sense of bum, sense of bum, that is taking the sensory motor input, like all the input from our sense organs, and saying, oh, yes, I can use that to sense the base of me without having to like do weird things and like kind of like give evidence that my butthole exists. I can just experience sitting on something. If my mother had taught me sense of bum as a child, I might have been less fidgety. Might have. Probably not, but I might have. Definitely would have been more present. And sense of bum for me is what's gone when I'm just like trying to get it enough. We're like even your doctors on the screens are only looking at us. We don't have a whole human experience for the most part, and with our reliance on screens. I'm not saying it's good or bad, it's just what it is. Let's get our butts into it. Just gravity, sense of bum. Exteroception. She does not have a sense of bum, okay? She thinks she's a bird. I'm a human. Another character I made, hello, sir. I'm in a lot of pain this weekend. We had a big temperature drop. We've had lots of barometric changes, and I'm ignoring that it's also the deepest grief I'm in all year. This is the nociception, S-H-E-N. Nociception is the experience of like recognizing noxiousness from you or pain, but also things like, do you have to pee? Am I really sick right now? Did I just get the flu or did I forget to eat lunch? I feel like nociception has a very direct relationship to how we experience very much, to how we experience emotions, like labeling them also. Your joints are feeling it as well. Mine, yeah, they feel like somebody pumped like Vaseline where there should be saline fluid. It gets very goopy in my joints. But nociception as recognizing things. Nociception, friends, and I really truly I made it my brother just because we're twins and everybody loves a good sibling rivalry, but there's just some shit I can't get away from. Okay. I'm not gonna not be a twin. I'm not gonna have well, I could change my last name, but like the name I was born with is the name I was born with. I was born with this brain. I was born a twin. La 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 la. Like some things cannot change. And if the what cannot change becomes bothersome enough, eventually parts of us will start to ignore it. I don't want to, I mean, it's just like what happens. I am not aware of how much pain I am in most of the time. However, when I'm avoiding my pain, when I'm avoiding the nociception, S-H-E-N, that means I'm also avoiding the body sensations. I'm also avoiding hunger. I'm also avoiding thirst. I'm also avoiding, right? And by avoiding, I'm not saying like I don't want it. It's just literally looking in different directions for more pleasant experiences. So the exercise that I put in with the nociception, S-H-E-N, is specifically for the facial nerve and the abducens nerves. And those are the nerves after the trigeminal nerve, the one that gives us all the pain. They also are the nerves of smiling. So the way you practice the healing smile and become a neuroscientist without having to remember those big words is you place the tip of your tongue on the ridge behind your upper teeth and smile. Smile with your sense of bum. The smile is for you. So I'm not really looking at anything. Bringing the tip of your tongue to the ridge behind your upper teeth. And then the back of the tongue is going to come up a bit. Our facial nerve is the one that gives us saliva. So this is also involved in the experience of stress. So it's a good thing to practice salivating. I'm not saying that you have to salivate. I'm just saying this is a way to assist. That's also part of our digestion. Saliva has a protein in it that helps us start to digest our food when we're chewing. And that location is here. That's this 12-story pagoda, which earlier I mentioned has a direct relationship to the fact that we are no longer fish. We are mammals. We don't have gills. There's your dowager's hump. Okay, this is the dorsal side of us, not the dorsal aspect of the vagus nerve. Vagus nerve is a noodly appendage. We are geometric in nature. So this is ventral, this is dorsal, and dorsal, okay, this is afferent, AFF. This is sensory. Ventral is effervent or effort. You could also think of ventral as effortful. It's movement. So apparently they're separated. I don't understand how or why that is. But the Taoist alchemy brings us in touch with the efferent, the afferent, pardon me, the afferent, affective neurosomatics is what I'm calling it. So the way you do the smile is you stick your tongue to the roof of your mouth and you smile. Then you do amazing things with it. So it starts with the smile. If you want to join me, you can. I am going to close my eyes. I'm, coughing and snotty because it's winter. So I might not be in the full perfect breath the whole time. That's okay. Who cares? You're always breathing anyway. So just notice. And then very simply, so we're going to smile to 3 zones: belly, heart, and head. The belly. I am smiling down to my belly. You can smile down to your belly too. You do not need to be touching it. You do not need to be in a perfect relationship with it. If this is like a lot, I have like I got a little bit of this there. If that's feeling like a lot, one thing you can do with these tools, you can smile to the Shen. You can download the crash course and get, let me see if I have any of these. Your crash course has many different variations of these practices in it. Here you go. So there's also, I also give you big flashcards so that you can have them like on your phone. And it tells you where it is, what it's about, what sound to do, and if you want to do them in an order. What I have found over the last many decades is the difficulty that I still have at 55, recognizing that it's hunger and not or something like that, becomes less and less alarming to me. I'm like, oh, that's the Shen. Let's call the Shen back. Come back to me, Shen. I'm sorry that you're having a hard day. Let's get it going together. I feel like I'm in an allied relationship with my own organs. After still stroke, stage 3 breast cancer, long COVID, I've barely been able to leave my house in 4 years. I don't say that as a flex. Believe me, I would love to be leaving my house. There's a lot. So we're Katie's Digital. So the having a relationship to the Shen, relating to the Shen as a provider, I believe helps me be more compassionate as well. Your mileage may differ. But if I'm working with somebody and we're discussing something like, I don't know, I feel nauseated when I'm not going, oh, this person has that going on and they have that, and that means Oh, I see you have anxiety on your chart. Like that kind of experience. That's because they're not looking at the spirit of you, they're looking at the numbers on the page. No. Even if it is anxiety, I'm going to contemplate your kidneys and Gabor, the Ja, the whatever. Because if I'm contemplating this element and the entity, and you're in a state of anxiety, I've actually now given that state of anxiety of place, a place setting that's here and not just here. Because I'm tuning to what it is that you're describing in a way that is more structural and more metaphor. And I have found that that makes it easier for me to perceive other people's lived experiences. Because it's really hard to perceive other people's lived experiences, especially if you have my skin color and IQ. The fuck? I'm a white lady talking about emotions. That should be a flag. That should be a flag. Not like a terror flag, but white ladies talking about emotions who are then telling you to regulate yourself, believe that they can call 911 when things get too hard. I'll just call 911 and send them to the loony bin. Because that's the pathway of polyvagal theory. That's the accelerated risk. That's what happens. Polyvagal theory equals psychiatry. It is not medicine. I don't know why psychiatry isn't considered medicine. This is like one of the biggest issues I think a lot of us are facing right now. So we can just be galactic, amazing human beings of paradox. We are so paradoxical. How can we survive like we do if we can't walk when we're born? Called tensegrity. I didn't mean for this to transition this way, but this is my first tensegrity rendering that I did. And I rendered it as a Merkaba because I know everybody loves a Merkaba. I love a Merkaba too. That gets me into Metatron, right? And like sacred geometry. But here's the thing, friends. Sacred geometry is multidimensional. So we have the same kind of geometry in our body, but it is dynamic through our tissues. It's called fascia. This is the free thing I'm doing on the 15th of January. You should come. It'll be 2 hours on a Wednesday night, recording for like 2 months or something. But we'll look at tensegrity specifically, and then these healing sounds and these entities in the Shen as allies in resonance over time through the tissues, which is what we need. So tensegrity, biotensegrity says human body manages stress and emotional experience, not just locally, but distributed throughout the body. Neuroaffective somatics, that's my shtick, I guess. I was gonna say my SHIT. This isn't SHIT. I just didn't want to call it yoga because again, I'm a white lady. Neuroaffective somatics approach aim to address physical manifestations and support emotional well-being through biotensegrity, literally, through living tissue. I contemplate tissue as alive. I don't know a doctor who does. Because a doctor who contemplates tissue as alive believes the pericardium matters. Anybody who contemplates tissue, not you, tissue as alive is going to believe you when you describe the pain that you're in. The people who believe you, whether or not they're consciously aware of it, have an understanding that our tissue is not only responsive, it is itself alive, just like your heart, just like your lung. It is not something to cut through to get to the organ. This is a very big problem with the history of dissection, especially, but also the history of gynecology. What zone in our body is the most fascial, you ask? Oh, the one that's down here, of course, because it's like the bowl of the human. So we have these fascinating bands of big bands of fascia that go all through our body. This is the work of Thomas Myers. I didn't like his training, but boy, do I love his illustrations. He's a massage therapist. I want you to take a look at this. This is called the spiral line. So these are visualizations of big, massive swaths of like thick cable tissue that go through our body. And they're part of what gives our body what's called morphology or shape. Connective tissue, you would also know as fascia. You would know it if you experience Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. If you ever have had a scar, you experience connective tissue. Collagen, connective tissue. Our connective tissue is itself a matrix. It is itself infinitive in nature. We are not, because we are biological organisms. We're not mechanical organisms. Thank you. Yes. So this here, this spiral line, it gives us this cross. X marks the spot. This is the X marks the spot of human. One way to contemplate it. I want you to note that it goes around our hips. Okay, we have a muscle in our hips called the psoas muscle. I just don't want to smash my cats. They have a tendency to hide. Psoas muscle goes from like our back. It starts in our hip flexors and it goes through to the spine. It's very involved in this, like all of this kind of movement that from the inside during stress, but also the folding that so many of us need to do to sustain the blood pressure because our tissues are fucked up, not our blood. So this spiral line, I believe, corresponds to something called the conception vessel in Chinese medicine, and that's the vessel that goes with mom. I think it also corresponds to the governing vessel, which is the vessel that corresponds to dad. Corresponds, not isn't. Conception, governing. This conception vessel as a helix. This is not Thomas Myers' logic, by the way. This is Katie Zitterbart logic. I'm just using his skeletons. But I mean, I've been with fascia, just so you know, for more than 20 years. And after my stroke, when I was attempting to apply everything that I know, I couldn't apply what I know about living tissue in polyvagal. It genuinely, because you have to be able to be up and moving and contemplating movement, interior, exterior, side interior, lateral, not a homeostatic state is a steady state. That is not movement. That's not moving like this. So the homeostatic state is if you're attuned to physics, homeostasis is what Douglas Hofstadter thinks is Bach, but it's actually Escher. It's just his ordering because these guys don't understand dimension because they don't have periods. Probably don't also have the tips of their penises anymore. That has really affected and impacted our consciousness as a species. So doing something that can get us connected to and in a resonant experience with these vessels is how China contemplates it. The vessels, the first most important, easiest thing to do is to breathe and just be aware that you're breathing. And then when you add the sense of bum, okay, this nice little crisscross applesauce here has more room to do like all the fascial things, which are really fascinating. Oh, I love it. You're in Epsom salt. Another line, let's see what, oh, here's a good one too, the deep front line. The deep front line has a lot to do with our feet and the experience here in the chestal region. And again, this is Thomas Myers. It's truly what he did with these illustrations, if he gives nothing else to the world, this has been so amazing. This here that he has a little bit of red shown, this corresponds to an energy center that we contemplate on the inside called the triple burner. Triple burner. These lines are so thick banded, these lines of fascia. And do you see how they can like even get involved? Here's your tension headache zone. Now we have a little bit of it's giving shape to the side body. He gives us even just like something like your arms. So just really wonderful ways to contemplate. What fascia does, like the way that it responds is very much like this model in that our fascia or any tensegrity structure really is built to withstand, to sustain, to respond. So suspension bridges are a tensegrity structure, but also origami, also music, also the folded thing that NASA did where they used origami on a satellite and then it like unfolded into space, like all of that. That is a tensegrity concept. All algorithm is tensegrity. All logarithm is tensegrity. Any kind of mathematical equation that does not ever end is inherently tensegrity. But also, our tissues are the same thing. It's called biotensegrity. So the tensegrity of a human involves our tissues, our bones, ligaments, veins, nerves, blood vessels, our internoodly appendages, and then like all the stuff that holds them together. And the stuff that holds all of our internoodly appendages together, which is our nerves and everything, the structure is called tensegrity, not regulation, not, I don't know what else it would be. Tensegrity is dynamic, it's responsive. Tensegrity principles in design are one of the ways that we get things to scale to infinity without having to do a lot of work. You just set it up, set it and forget it. Katie's theory of neural net. Just set it and forget it. You only have to get it to a few levels and then it just grows on its own. So when we breathe or move or anything, we're influencing the tensegrity of our body. But also, other people influence the tensegrity of our bodies. And many of them don't even need to be in the same room or touching us. They can just make laws. They can break up with us, right? And then you're like tragic for a month. That's a tensegrity. That is a change in pressure, load, movement, torque, stretch. That's a relationship with another person is very much like, wow, we get all kinds of stuff going on that shifts or somebody does something and you're like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So you just go to your sounds. Where's my little book? Here's my little book. Your little inner cartography. This is not written for children, though your kids will not find anything that they shouldn't. Polarity, yin and yang. I wrote for you and me the polarity principle is relevant to neuroaffective somatics, which is what all of this is, the matrix of the body mind, not the body or the mind, the body mind and the matrix of space time. And then how do those interact? So the polarity principle is relevant because it mirrors the approach of contemplating harmony and the mind through philosophical or through body and emotional aspects, aiming for a holistic well-being that aligns with equilibrium. Equilibrium, not necessarily homeostasis. So the homeostasis sphere, S-P-H-E-R-E, my physics friends, the homeostasis sphere is the perfect sphere. Buddhists call it mother pearl. Taoists call it the pearl. It is indeed the lived experience of cultivating a homeostatic moment energetically and experiencing it moving through the pathways of the nervous system. I didn't make it up. I'm just telling you that it works. So homeostasis is closed, right? It's the heart, lungs being nice together. It's having enough fluid in your eye. It's all of our cells being happy. It is nuclear reactors. It is anything that you need to keep. Polarity is the factor that makes us have change, right? We have the North and South Pole. We have the spin of the Earth. We have the experience of how we understand sun and moon, which is different than how other entities or other constellations or whatever would understand theirs, but however we understand that. Polarity is what happens when a zygote is formed and you get one fertilized cell. One fertilized cell. Somehow that little swimmer makes its way to the Goblin City. And then a tiny, tiny, tiny little nuclear reaction occurs, fusion and fission. And then we have a fertilized cell that then does things like become two more, and then two more, and then more and more and more. That's exponential growth. That's amazing. That's a polarity-based idea. So is I'm in my feminine and you're in your masculine. And if I'm in my feminine, I should be receptive, blah, blah, blah. And if you're all of those, do you know how much effort it is to determine what is masculine and feminine even? Or even just like, is it even relevant to what's happening? It might be, truly, but like clothing styles change over time, my friends. It is still the case that we need to be one fertilized cell in order to exist as human. I think we can agree on that. And then the other reason that I made this, you see, I made it open. So the yang of the yin and the yang is the emergent. This is before I really understood the stick to the white or know the white and stick to the black between water and metal. That is speaking to cold and hot fusion. So apparently, I don't do the acupuncture, I just do the metaphysics because then I can stay in physics. Cold and hot Chinese medicine. And Chinese medicine, this alchemy, 100% based on the concept of negentropy, which is what happens in dynamic systems when they become more complex rather than entropic, which is the gravity factor that eventually everything is going to fall to the earth because of gravity. There's also something called negentropy that balances entropy. Yin and yang as emergent. You could also contemplate polarity as whether or not something is right or wrong, or on or off, or now or later, but not in Taoism. I would encourage you to add something if you're contemplating if it's right or wrong for you. Is it right or wrong today? Is it right? Because the right or wrong, something in you has to defend. And if you're just doing it to yourself and you don't feel like defending your own arguments about your own existence, just going to add something to it, like Wu Wei, Wuwei, power with, which is the Merkaba that you can see through. Power with is the totality of all logic, all virtue, and all of the mechanics of anything in Taoist cosmology. I have gone back as far as 10,000 years, as far as I'm able to perceive. Wu Wei, effortless action of Taoism, is both living in harmony with your environment and setting things up so that they can grow on their own. Wu Wei is anytime you plant a garden and you're contemplating what zone you're in and what you're going to plant and how long does that take to happen and then when can I that is all question. Those are all kinds of questions you would ask through Wu Wei. It's a very practical concept. It does not have to just be the Tao that can be named is not the Tao, the only trueness of the. I love reading that stuff too, but it can't, if it's all that impractical, why is it all still here? And how come I need to have a license if I want to give you herbs or use needles? There's more to this. Symbiosis is in here. Balanced family dynamics are in here. Having enough tools, resources, support for what you and I need. That's in here. And so what I wrote in my little book that you can go get, it's $17 on my website, is Wu Wei is a principle from Taoism about aligning with your flow of life, not forcing or resisting. In neuroaffective semantics, Wu Wei can be seen as a teaching principle, encouraging us to find a rhythm in healing. It suggests that sometimes the most profound changes occur not through intense effort, but through releasing control. I'm not asking you to surrender to Dorothy, just saying like parts of how we are contemplating regulation and like feeling good are forced. Parts are. And then which parts of those are benefiting you and which parts of those do you need to say, get lost, buddy. I got another way to do it. What else did I put in here for us? Oh, interoception. Here's the interoception, S-H-E-N. Interoception is the one where I know what I'm feeling. I know what my emotions are. It's the process of sensing physiological conditions inside. I'm like, and the need for digestive or sexual processes. It's closely related to emotions. So what I did for the Shen of extero, the experience of interoception, the experience of understanding is your belly, your head, and your heart. And that's where those three zones of the inner smile are. So you find your sense of bum, and then you smile. Belly, heart, head. You can touch yourself. You can be contemplating. You could look at something. You could think I'm totally out of my mind. I don't know what you're thinking, but I'm telling you, you're not going to hurt yourself. Smiling to yourself. And the super cool thing is, I don't even need to actually like believe it. It's just a thing. It's like brushing my teeth. I had a panic attack. Oh my gosh. Do you ever have the panic responses where your stomach like truly does just drop? I don't know what it was. I know it was a cancer fear, but it was so sudden. And I absolutely have rescue medication. I take medication. I am not dissing the Western medicine, but I'll tell you what, my psychiatrist, my doctor cannot help me through that moment. I'm in that moment. So things I know, cool down my vagus nerve, do this, do whatever. But the first most thing I know is once my stomach drops, I'm not there. So I'm like separated. And I'm always somewhere where there's a wall or a surface or a something to lean on. And just that, or doing like perturbation movement where I'm just sitting on something and you just use what you have to like experience the movement, okay? Because we keep getting told we have to do it ourselves. I'm going to have community. I'm going to go out and take a yoga class. And that's I mean, I certainly wish I could do that now, but studios don't believe in disabled people anymore. I guess they never really did. I've always believed in disability. But yeah, so you can use your tools. Your tools are your body and your environment. I when I really started writing this all down, there have been so many invasions. I can't even remember which conflict it was just starting, but I was contemplating that we need like a way to contemplate containment outside of fully being restricted or just having a very narrow band of what is success. And it occurred to me, this is before I understood metal as deeply. It's probably why I understand metal. I said to myself, the world needs to understand that that the metal of Chinese medicine is cans. It's like canning. Pretend like this is a can of beans. Like I just I just took one of my cat's cans. But like in order to can food, I need to be able to control fire. I need to be able to understand the temperature that this is at. I need to be able to form a vacuum seal. There's a whole study in physics, vacuum physics. If I want to can something, I need space to store it. Once cans become metal, then I have to be able to label it. And whatever is in this, here's Schrodinger's cat, but in a different way. Whatever is in this can has already done everything that it needs to be safely contained. Then I can consume it. As a prop, like a yoga prop, you can use a can as pressure on your body. Okay, this is Katie's logic. If you don't have a can, like if you cannot access a can to do somatics, you've got some pretty big fucking problems that we need to be dealing with right now, namely you not eating. So the can as an idea of safe containment is very much about having enough. And then also like kind of knowing what you have. And by the time you and I start interfacing with other humans, like as children or whatever, this can, right? This can then is also a way to contemplate things like what have people put on me or in me that are mine or not mine? Uh, pretty sure I don't resonate with that at all. No, I'm not, I don't know if these are black beans or blue beans or green beans or red beans. I don't even know if they're beans. How do you know that you can trust the label? If this is a whole ass human, let me get a real can. Do I not have a can? How could I not have a can? I'm in the house of beans. Ah, thank you. My goodness me. Like, it's almost time to go shopping, right? But so a can is safe containment. And so I can use it as pressure. You can use it. In the Magic Loshu grid of divination, which is like the perfect divination from China, uh, from a tensegrity perspective, this can occupies space of impossible geometry, just naturally. from a math perspective, from a cranial nerve perspective, from a time perspective, from a actual doing China, is imperceptible. So metal and TCM is mirrors very much. Lenses, how you would, the way that the needles occur, once the needle pierces the skin, which is very tiny, is it influences the charge. And then these somehow these Shen go off and do everything. Now, here's something that's very fascinating. Okay? Because remember, these Chinese didn't have the same kind of imaging that we do now, 10,000 years ago. So this is the way that TCM doctors look at a body. And I just put the pink, the blue, and the yellow on to show you how the three planes of the brain are reflected on the body. But for today, if we're looking at these dots, these are called meridians. The lines are meridians. The dots, those are nodes on the network. So when the TCM doctor puts a needle, say here, whatever Shen goes with this is off doing things, but that they're not only going to put one needle on you, they're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4. It's like they set up a grid almost with the needles. They set up an array. And that influences the flow of chi, ki, vital life force, energy, the part where we're alive. It's very subtle. It's not going to heal your compound fracture, but it might help with your pain. And the way that this is displayed as a switchboard, almost like a computer switchboard, mimics parts of our brain that have very deeply interrelated aspects, like they have to be working together and they're not one whole thing, and they're very much like a grid. This is how they're described in the literature. It's like a switchboard where you do, oh, and I'm like, oh, that's my brain. Thank you. Thank you, China. And then they even gave me a nice little can of beans that I can put it in. One whole human. But one whole human in vitro, one whole human as infant, one whole human growing, one whole human aging, one whole human aging more, one whole human becoming, oh, I don't know, paralyzed, the totality of you and me as a whole human. The totality occurs when you get your belly button. That is when your Jing, which is represented by this yellow band here, your equator, that is where nobody can mess with that anymore because you're not in the womb anymore. So this can, it probably is the placenta specifically, is what the metal element represents. I haven't been able to find stuff about that, but the metal element, as I remind you, goes with our nose, which is related to our lungs, respiration. And the sound for the lungs sounds like steam. And water is the densest when it's fluid, not when it's solid or vapor. S. So some things are so important and so crucial and critical to existing, like oxygen. We're either like fully like enmeshed in it or with it, or we just need it so bad. And then, so thank you for giving me a container. And then these practices are the tantric practices. These 5 healing sounds, there's a sixth sound that goes with the pericardium. That's where I placed interoception. Our pericardium, para, like perimenopause, pericardium, prior to cardium, not anterior, para. This is like super duper important, the way that biologists name things, because it's consistent across time and it's all based in Latin. So once you learn the Latin for one thing, you know it for everything. Very convenient. Thank you for sending me to Latin classes in grade school. My best friend from childhood and I thank our parents regularly for sending us to Latin. But this belly down here, the belly zone of the bean, okay, and which is the oval shape of human or the oval shape of the Nijing 2, which I give you also in the free things. Look, you can have like your own big giant game space like I have. I love that. Okay. I have absolutely been rambling. Totally, totally rambling. I love it. I don't know if anybody is still here with me. I know some of you are. But yes, so you're going to go get the Tao on the Art of Nervous System Resonance Regulation. It's only $17, and then you have all of the Shen already with you. How amazing. You can make up your own Shen. I made up Shen for interoception, proprioception, exteroception, gnosis, all the words that I made up Shen for them. Hello. You can make up Shen. Don't make up Shen about other people and then turn them into like things that you're maneuvering. The Shen are your Shen. Okay, and the way that they're attached to us is through particles and waves and strings. And if you're me, Merkabas, because I like a Merkaba. So let's pretend like this is the Shen for my kidneys because it's black and my kidney color is black. And so the Shen of my kidneys and your kidneys, okay, just exists somewhere deep in the body. I'm not going to put this whole thing in my mouth, right? But then when we breathe out, chew is the sound for the kidneys. Chew. Goes out, lets that shock go, brings back some calm. Oh, thank you. And then chew. So the process of breathing is one way that we can contemplate the actions of the Shen, which are gathering, so I can have a little bit more, like oxygenating, directing, not stopping, directing. So that's me. I'm just gonna like, oh no, no, like you do with kids and cats. You don't want to like smack them around. You just no. And then also existing and sustaining, being the bumblebee, the helicopter. And then they go off and they do their things. That's a particle and a wave. This is a string. Like literally. Also literally. So when the physicists are talking about particles and waves and dimension, I don't understand how they understand 1D. I'm just very glad that a string is 1D, one dimension. What is string theory? Oh, the music of the harmony of the universe. Yes. And then 1D is a string. Who knows what that is? I think that Mr. Schrodinger called it a Zitterberg. Um, uh, You could call it the beginning of a schmorschmasm. Could be a hair, could be a, I'm just thinking about like ways we can contemplate string. If I hung something from the ceiling and it was hanging on a fishing line, it would look like it's suspended in space. You just wouldn't be able to see the line. Is that gravity? I don't know. But gravity has to occur somewhere. So it's probably the first dimension. Two dimensions is a plane, piece of paper. But everything in our universe that we interact with, that we can hold, is three dimensions, no matter how thin it is. Okay. So when you and I are thinking about 2D, it's a 3D surface. But guess what? This makes it good because here is my yin or my yang or my liver or whatever. It's my art. It's a wiggly experience. I made it into this. Okay. The Shen is on or in somewhere or doing whatever. Shen received the message. Oh, time to turn on. Here I go. La la la. I'm gonna go. Maybe you don't see me. Maybe you can't see me at all. Oh my God, it just appeared from nowhere. Phenomena appearing on Earth. Ugh. No, it's just appeared back into our perception. It's probably, I mean, I don't know, it's probably been here the whole time. I'm very relaxed by the idea that there are upper and multiple more dimensions personally, because I'm only ever going to see the shadow on the ground or feel the 3D shadow of even higher dimensions. I don't know how that would work. I did not invent the universe, and I certainly don't believe I can reverse engineer it any more than starting a new one. Shen. This is the dot in the yin and the yang, making this the curve in the yin and the yang. If you've noticed, the curve between the yin and the yang is just the between the yin and the yang, the squiggles. The dots are the things that are obvious. You can see the dot, the white and the black and the black and the white. You can see the contrast, but possibly not the connection. Oh, and then it moves on its own. And if this is thin enough, I'm not going to be able to perceive it. But I'm supposed to be able to regulate my nervous system? Sure. No problem. I'll get right on that. I'd much rather practice resonating. All right, my friends, I'm going to jump in the shower, and invite you back we'll hang out sometime. Come to my thing on the 15th. This is $17. I will be starting to offer higher ticket things, but I very much want y'all just to kind of get the basics together. So yeah, go get it. And then I will do like a class at some point. It's very close to the X Mass. I forgot what week it is.